resonances. Underneath St Pancras lies, bricked up at the end of the 19th century, like a time capsule, waiting for the other works to complete the site, such a darkened terminus. Resonance 1. The house was old. Of course it had a tunnel. We wished it didn't, but we hoped it did. We hunted it by tapping on the walls. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Bah! 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 Which knocked me cold awake. Resonance 2. The book where Mozart notes the work he's done is dated 1784-1 century blank. 8 years remain unrun. Resonance 3. Brindley's Canal winds level. North, the remains of brickworks. West, above Worksop, steeper, a heavily locked section, closed in 1896. Resonance 5. 200 years apart and parting two quite other worlds, having in view centuries' ends, the stones torn down by rage, parted at once and parted age from age. Resonance 7. Lynn discovered that she had been once divorced. We hadn't touched on it for years, and then, coming up from a conversation of money, my work for the St Pancras Trust, but coming up from that, you know, and after the news at 10, I made some cocoa for us, not fishing for apologies, and held, she grimaced as I held her hand a bit. I said, then or later, but that day or that week, I said, we've made it up to 15 years anyway, and still going strong. And then, tactlessly, stupidly, I don't know, I said, that's 5 times where you got with Harry. She said, Harry? I don't know anyone called Harry. As if I'd made some silly accusation. Harry was her first husband. And okay, I know we've talked about it less and less. As time goes by, all memories get awkward. But there are documents, old letters, photos, cuttings even. I got the box, went through it, showed her them. Wished I hadn't, as I think it left her rather shaken. No, it's not a shadow life with shadow kids growing and eating, winning shadow prizes. Harry and Lynn were married just 3 years. They hadn't any children. Was I right to resurrect it after all this time? Was I right to resurrect it after all this time? I think so. She is a librarian. She tends, or did tend, I should say, to make herself the rational, the academic, married as if by accident, and me harmless enough with my St Pancras Trust, but, well anyway, I think the raising of her amnesia, 5 years of it, has let her see that A, she too can be deluded, self-deluding, and much more. There really are enclaves of the unseen, even in your own life. Who knows? Will Lynn one day again be helping with the trust? Yes, the St Pancras Trust. Just Lynn and me to start with. She was with Harry still. But the last 10 years have seen such an upsurge of interest that I devote myself to it full time. It aims to settle the truth about the buried terminus, because officially there's nothing there. Just a staff car park that was once a depot for beer trains in from Burton-on-Trent. Or some say the old St Pancras underground, when that was closed and bricked off, that must be the grit inside the buried station myth. Or is it really there? Did funds run out? Were the plans lost when history derailed everything in 1914? Who knows? I sometimes dream about the buried station. The other night, it was a bright March morning. I was on Euston Road and walking east. St Pancras clock tower. In the dream, it looked like Westminster Cathedral. Had a clock which showed the time with numbers coming out like the blades on a large-scale working model of a Swiss Army knife. You've seen it too. And this clock signalled 1897. I ran across the road. This was a dream, hoping the buried terminus was open. And you know, what else will it restore? Lynn and me happier again, or reconciled with Harry, as it does from time to time trouble my conscience, or them never married. Harry not outrageously patronising to his own assistants or to me, or I reached St Pancras. I could see the platforms which I had seen in dreams before, dark, empty, and they were bright, with trains and people I could recognise in the dream, and shall if I should ever meet them. But the blades moved on again, the radio alarm was hardening the real world. I was waking. But it occurs to me, that was the day that ended with her big discovery, and I think, touch wood, ushered in the spring. That was it. Yes, that was the dream I had. That was the day. I'm sure that was the day. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Aidan. I loved when you flapped the papers around in the middle there. There's concrete work on there, all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Very intriguing manuscript. Thank you for sharing the selection. Right.